We're delighted, as Barbara said, to be joined today by two very distinguished panelists, Dr. Virginia LiVolsi and Dr. Jennifer Hunt. And we're going to be discussing leadership and mentoring. And we're going to set the agenda for current and future leaders. So let me tell you a little bit about these amazing ladies. Dr. LiVolsi is a world-renowned expert in thyroid pathology. She's a professor of pathology and laboratory medicine at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. And of course, Dr. Jennifer Hunt is the chair of the Department of Pathology and Lab Medicine at the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences. Dr. LiVolsi mentored Dr. Hunt, who assumed her position as a department chair at the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences before the age of 40, which we all know is quite extraordinary. And today, we're going to talk about the importance of mentoring and the path to prepare the leadership skills. And we're going to ask these ladies to help us understand how we can exercise the rights to prepare exciting and dynamic conversations with our future leaders. Please welcome to the panel, Dr. LiVolsi and Dr. Hunt. So our discussion today, as I mentioned to you, is going to be focusing on leadership and mentoring. And I thought just to kick things off, we would do a round robin to discuss, maybe describe somebody, the three of you if you would, who has been an incredible leader, a mentor for you. I don't want to know the names. Don't tell me the name of the person because we don't want to embarrass them. I get to embarrass our president all year long, so we don't have to do that. But we do want you to think about what top 2 traits did you learn from that person, and can you share that with us? What stands out in your mind? So let's do a round robin, Dr. Hunt.
Okay, so I've had lots of great mentors. There probably are some of them in the room here. I've had mentors that have done everything for me, from reviewing my first job talk and telling me what shoes to wear at an interview. I've had mentors who said to me, I turned down this talk because I can't go, but I gave them your name. I've had a mentor who told me how to define the word barbecue.
I wonder who did that.
I don't know. It was somebody from the South.
It was somebody from the South.
Yes.
You have to learn the difference between the noun barbecue and the verb barbecue. But
he's got
we
a thing
definitely.
About this.
I helped her understand that, and now she's an aficionado of barbecue.
I'm sorry. I don't want to get him started on barbecue.
Well, there you go.
But the real mentor that stands out in my mind is one who did things I don't even know about. This is a person who was a stealth mentor. Now, this is also a person who was a very present mentor and did things I did know about. But I swear that there are 1,000 things in my career that I can attribute to this person that I don't even know about. And I think that's really the sign of a true mentor, is the person who does things behind the scenes, opens doors you never even knew were opened, and does things for your career and for your success that they never get credit for. And I'm telling you who it is. It's her. And I am so grateful to the ASCP for letting me say this publicly, because every time I try to thank Dr. LiVolsi privately, she brushes me off. It says, yeah, whatever, So publicly, thank you, Virginia, for being my best mentor in the world. She really was. So what did she teach me? What didn't she teach me? What didn't she teach me? She taught me how to write a consult letter. If I send consults out to any of you in the room, it's because of her. They look the same, they're her letters. That's where I learned it. She taught me pathology. She taught me to eat lunch in the doctor's cafeteria, which really means be present. And she taught me how to write a paper. She taught me how to edit a paper. She taught me everything I probably do in pathology today. One of the things that really stands out in my mind from my mentoring from Virginia is she taught me to look forward. Always be looking forward, looking forward, looking forward. And I have a story about that, but we can come back to the story if you want to.
Okay, well, Dr. LiVolsi.
Wow. Thank you, Jim.
That's a hard act to follow right there.
That's a really hard act to follow. I guess that 2 people stand out in my mind as mentors for my career. And one of them inspired me by the passion and love that he had for the job he did as a surgical pathologist. And what he taught me, beyond a lot of diagnostic surgical pathology, was that there's a patient behind every slide. And the importance of what he did to him was that he served that patient. And there was a passion there, a passion for learning, a love of figuring out the diagnosis, being a sort of detective, and I don't mean that in a forensic sense in any manner, way, shape, or form. The second person who was a mentor to me in my academic career, and I will mention a name here, is Dr. Frank Velios, who was a member of the ASCP for many, many years, and its president, I believe, way back. And he encouraged me to pursue an educational aspect to my career by putting together and presenting a course, a workshop at the ASCP. And that was the first workshop I ever gave. I was hysterically nervous, but I got good grades and I was invited back. So those are the two people who stand out in my mind.
Thank you. Well, Barbara, you come from a long list of leaders who have inspired you, obviously, many of them within your own family. Tell me about somebody or a couple of skills that you've learned that have helped you understand the importance of what you needed to do with your life as well.
I mean, so many people come to mind. I had one woman. I think just showing that you believe in someone is really important. And when I graduated from college, as I mentioned, I had studied architecture and then kind of snuck in health as fast as I could. And I went up to a woman that was speaking on a panel. She was South African and she was talking about what she did. And I just said, oh, I'm just so wish I could do what you do. I'm, so in awe of what you do. And she said, well, why don't you? And I stayed in touch with her and I ended up moving to South Africa to work with her. And she was, first of all, at the beginning exhibited the belief in me, but she was one of those people that I would go into meetings with her. And I was 22 and I felt like I didn't know anything, and someone would ask a question and she'd say, well, Barbara, what do you think? Which was terrifying, and I would start sweating profusely immediately. And yet I knew she had my back with whatever I was going to say, and so it wasn't as scary, and it was great practice for me, and knowing that I couldn't really say anything wrong if I had done my homework, that she saw that there was something that I can contribute was really important to me. So that's one. And then another person that I worked with once sat me down and said, we were sort of talking about career planning, and to some degree I didn't really have a career planner. I wouldn't have started Global Health Corps. It was an accident that I started it. And she said, I only hire people that are rock stars, and I don't want you to work here for the rest of your career. I'm hiring rock stars that I want to work with in 5 years, and then in 20 years, I want to see you sort of doing what I'm doing. And realizing that when you're hiring, you're really investing in where someone will be. You can use it as an opportunity to invest in where someone will be in 20 years. Just made me realize that she wanted me to make decisions that were best for me, and she would help me figure out if I needed more education, if I wanted to grow in some area that I didn't feel like I was strong in, or if I wanted exposure to a very different type of program than I had been working on. That was an option, and that was a really sort of amazing thing to hear from someone else that was very prestigious in her career, to say, like, you don't need to stay here, learn as much as you can, and this is working and living is about curiosity and learning anything that you're curious about, and I'll be your partner in doing that.
That's fantastic. So Dr. LiVolsi, at the University of Pennsylvania, there's a mentoring program that I know you're actively involved in. And could you help me out and explain some of the things that you teach your residents and you help the residents understand on how to hone their leadership skills and why it's important for them to be critically involved in the future of their practice?
Okay, well, we have mentoring at many levels. And at the resident and especially at the resident level, Each incoming resident is assigned a more senior resident mentor and also is encouraged to find and identify a faculty mentor as well. And relationships build. Sometimes it doesn't work. And I think any program that is in a department or in a community is going to have, just by human nature, people who don't click. And what's good about our program is that if that happens, the senior faculty, the residency program director, the chief resident, etc., make a transition that is not argumentative, not difficult, tried to be made as easy as possible to match the mentors with the mentee. This is also done at the level of junior faculty, actually a little bit more formally, because whenever we hire a junior faculty person, in the offer letter, the name of the mentor is listed. And that individual already has interviewed the new person. That individual has accepted the responsibility of mentoring the new person. And again, if they mesh, it can be extremely successful. If they don't, there is a committee that says, okay, we're going to have to switch this. And that's very, very good. I think one very important thing about a mentoring program in pathology, especially in academic pathology, is that the mentor and the mentee have to both be in a similar area in pathology. They have to have common interests, because the mentor has to not only bring the mentee along, but has to be able to open appropriate doors. As Jennifer said, if the mentor is invited to give a talk at another university and can't make it, say to the mentee, I would like to give your name, you go. And I have one very unfortunate example where there was a young incoming faculty member who had an interest in malignant melanoma pathology. And this was before we had our more formal mentorship program in place. And he was assigned a mentor who was a superb medical oncologist who treated patients with melanoma. And they became good friends, but the medical oncologist didn't know the pathology doors to open for the mentee, and it just did not work out. So I think there's got to be a great deal of thought behind any program that a pathology department or any academic department puts into their mentoring program.
Fantastic, wow. Dr. Hunt, I have been amazed at how you've catapulted your career. I mean, you've just, the tenacity that you must have exercised in order to get where you are. She's the chair of pathology in Arkansas before the age of 40. It's amazing. And by the way, I want to congratulate you on your recent election to the Board of Governors of CAP as well. How did you do it? Tell us about it. Tell me about your career path and how you managed to do this.
I wouldn't say it was planned in any way. Although I said Virginia taught me to look ahead. Looking ahead is a general attribute, I think. In my career, I think things presented themselves to me. And one of the words of wisdom that I've had from my parents, my parents are academics. They're both teachers, and I've learned so much from both of them. My mom always says, never refuse a good opportunity. And then at the same time, she says, but say no once a day. So I love that. I love that. Never refuse a good one, but always remember to say no also. And that's a really important dichotomy to balance there. And I think what I've had were many, many amazing opportunities. When I took my first job at the University of Pittsburgh, and it was a wonderful job for me. I had an incredible mentor in ENT pathology, Dr. Barnes. And I know Virginia and I talked long and hard before I went there, and that was one of the reasons she encouraged me to go there, is because I would have him to open all the doors in head and neck for me. And my next job at the Cleveland Clinic, which was part of Case Western in some ways, was too early. It came too early. I was recruited there to be director of Surg Path when I was only four and a half years out of my residency. And it's a huge place, 100,000 surgical specimens and being head of surgical pathology. It was way too early. And I thought about that a lot. I thought, wow, I shouldn't be doing this early in my career. And John Goldblum, who recruited me, said, it's only too early if I say it's too early. But okay, well, are you sure you know what you're getting into? Because I don't know anything about doing this. And I think that was it. I took advantage of opportunities that came up, even when I was nervous about them or thought, maybe this is beyond what I can do. I remember when I took over a molecular lab at the University of Pittsburgh, and the head of surgical pathology there, Sam Usom, said to me, can you do this? And I said, absolutely, no problem. And I walked out and went, I can't do this. What was I thinking? So I think it's really about that. Seeing an opportunity, taking advantage of opportunities, even when your gut is telling you, oh my gosh, am I in over my head? And I think a lot of the decisions I've made have come from that, those pieces of wisdom from my mother.
Somehow, I don't think fear is something that's instilled in your system there.
I have it, I just don't show it.
Okay, Barbara. In healthcare, oftentimes, even with our own hospital administration systems, you'll often hear folks say that leading this group is like herding a bunch of cats, okay? And I can imagine this probably as well as what happens or is akin to what we see in the political spectrum as well. And certainly we don't have any problems in the political spectrum where there's leading like a bunch of cats, but what advice could you impart from your experience growing up in the White House, working through with two incredible presidents that you're related to, and then obviously in the insurmountable work that you took on? What advice do you have for us in this audience, how we can bring autonomous professionals together to work together collectively in multidisciplinary fashions?
That's a good question. First of all, I would say I did not work with two presidents, only because I was 7 when my grandfather was president.
That's close enough.
And I thought everyone's grandfather was president. I didn't know. I remember actually asking a friend in first grade, I was like, oh, I just went to my grandfather's inauguration. When's your grandfather's inauguration? Like I had I lived in a sweet world when I was 7. But I think one thing that you're exposed to with anyone is, in this circumstance or with Global Health Corps as well, is, I mean, we talk a lot about the president as the decision maker, but there are unbelievably, hundreds of unbelievably smart, talented people that are supporting that one person, and every decision is made with so many different insights. And it's sort of stating the obvious, but I think that's sort of something that's tricky about our political process, is we talk about one person every time. And really, it's a remarkable group of people that are backing that person up. And I see that a lot in the space that I work in, social entrepreneurship. There's a lot of, everyone talks about the founder of something, but it's not the story of the founder, it's the story of the second hire, the third hire, the fourth hire, and everyone that you're working with in order to make something happen. And with Global Health Corps, we do, a lot of our program really is about investing in community. When we polled all of our fellows 1 year out, 2 years out, 3 years out of their fellowship and said, what was most important to you about this year? We thought everyone would say, getting my foot in the door in a field that I've been desperate to get into. And everyone said the community of people that I got to work with was what was most important to me. And I think that's for 2 reasons. One, working on global health issues is hard. And so you don't want to think of yourself as one person working on these issues. If you have a bad day, that's not, having a bad day in global health is a life or death situation. And so we really wanted our fellows to realize, I had a bad day, but there are 449 other fellows like me working on these issues. And so maybe I had a bad day, but think of the collective impact that we're all having. And really, I think that led to the fact that now we don't really have an attrition rate because our fellows feel so supported by other people that are, I would argue, that are their sort of partners and their comrades in this space. But we get at that. I mean, we talked about this a second ago. We are all about vulnerability. Like the first day that you walk into Global Health Corps, we talk all about sort of why you do, what drives you, what's your failure narrative. We all sort of can sit on a stage and say our success narrative. And I went to Yale, and then I moved to South Africa for 3 years, and then I started Global Health Corps, and then Google funded us. And that's our success narrative, but in my head, I have a different narrative that's like, I'm 30, do I know what I'm doing running an organization? And ensuring that our fellows will talk both about their success narrative and their failure narrative with each other so that it's okay to talk about things, areas that you're vulnerable in, and it's okay to get there. And that's how you can connect more quickly and work with very different people.
Okay, this is not planned, but you definitely just queued me up, all right? We're going to talk about vulnerability. Dr. Croft knows a lot about that. I've helped him with vulnerability this year. In fact, you know, part of being a leader, as you're aware, is establishing a positive influence with those that you're around. It's important that you show, through your leadership skills, the others around you can feel that positive energy, right? You have to have that. And there's a concept that we use, even with an ASCP, it's called the Orange Revolution, where we actually insist on all of our staff and volunteers on being vulnerable. We want them to be vulnerable. We want them to put them out of their box. We want to make them do things they hadn't thought about, because what they'll learn from that is it shows that they're leaders. They're prepared to be right there with all of us in the trenches, getting the hard work done and pushing ahead. Sometimes you have to push that rock uphill, right? But if you're positive about it, you can do it. I'd like for the three of you to tell me about how you've used your positive attitudes in order to influence your staff or your volunteers that you work with, or anybody in your life for that matter, even your children.
Oh, no, I'm not positive with my children. I'm sorry. No, we can't go there.
That's when you say no,
I have
right?
a 14-year-old girl, so let's just stop there. I love her. I really do. Sometimes. I think you've picked up on two of the themes that I think are really critical for leaders, and that is being vulnerable, being positive. And I kind of sum it up in a different word, but one that encapsulates both of those, and that is authentic. Mm-hmm. I think it's really, really important for me to look at a leader and see them as a true representation of themselves, an authentic person. They can have lots of different skills and they can have weaknesses, but if they are not authentic, I see it and I can't get behind them. I think it's really important as a leader to be someone that people can get behind and that you inspire the people around you to do things. I had one leader one time that was a negative driver, a person who led with negativism, who was demanding and would circle people's names on charts and say, you did this wrong, that kind of thing. And I remember saying to this person one time, you have no idea what I would do for you if you were just nicer to me. And I think that's true. We do so much for people that are nice and inspiring and loving and caring that we would never do for people in other scenarios. I mean, I think I get incredible work and behaviors out of my faculty just because I love them. I really do. And that makes a big difference.
Positive attitude. Mm-hmm. Dr. LiVolsi, tell us about it.
I think a real leader has to be willing and able to say, I don't know. And I think that's most inspiring of younger people if you say, I'm looking at this slide, I have never seen anything like it before, I have no idea what this is, rather than trying to bluff your way through it. I think many, many people, most people will see through the bluff, and you've lost a lot of respect. And you've gained a huge amount if you say, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And a corollary of that is that may inspire the young person to say, you know, maybe we should look and see if we have other cases like this, and let's do this, that, and the other thing. And it inspires a study and a paper and an abstract, and people can come here to the ASCP and present a poster.
And we insist that you do that. Barbara, tell us about the power of a positive attitude.
Well, I think I just want to repeat everything that they both just said. I don't know, because I am just super positive in general, so I don't know the power of a negative attitude because I never really had one. But I think I can say that when we look for Global Health Corps Fellows, we have this criteria that's all about leadership, and how we describe our Global Health Corps Fellows is that they're rational dreamers, and that we don't want them to be the one that says, no, we can't do that because that's just not what we do. We want them to say, well, what about these 4 other options? And we want them to be dreaming about things looking different than they do now, but obviously be rational enough to figure out how you back up and create a plan to get to what their dream is. And I think most people want to be dreamers, and they want to feel like they can think of something so different than what exists and figure out how to do it. And it's about sort of encouraging that and building systems that encourage that rather than building systems that just do what the status quo is.
You know, when I look at these 3 incredible leaders sitting in front of me, there's something different about them. They're incredible female leaders, and I feel really awkward right now. And most of you know that's hard for me. And I was also, when I was thinking about what you were saying about being positive, all of you, it also comes from being around positive people, doesn't it? It also comes from surrounding yourself with people that you know will help you be the kind of influencer and mentor. And I just had this flashback that I didn't even tell you about, but in 1979, when your father was running against Reagan for president, I was walking through the lobby of a hotel, and I saw him, and he wanted to meet me and talk to me about mentorship. That's pretty amazing. I'm talking about your grandfather, I'm sorry. That's pretty amazing. And I thought to myself, wow, why would he select me out? I'm just, you know, a kid in high school. And he said, because we need future leaders. And he talked to me while he ate his hamburger for like 15 minutes, you know. So we're coming to the end of our question and answer session. I have to tell you, I've been incredibly inspired by the 3 of you. And I want you to continue to please pass on your seeds of wisdom to the people that you want to influence and those that need your influence. But before we go, we have a surprise question. And it's going to be for you, Barbara.
Oh, no.
So, your grandfather, he skydives. Really? Look at him. Check that out. I mean, how is that possible? So tell me, then, how is leadership like skydiving? Tell me about your grandfather and what he continues to show us in his perpetual motion, as you see there. How does that compare?
How is leadership like skydiving?
Yeah.
Well, I think, first of all, I think he's the cutest human being in the world. But I was really lucky in that he went skydiving on his 85th birthday, and I got to join him, which was really fun. And then I was with him this summer, and it was his 90th birthday, and he went skydiving on it. And on his 85th birthday, you know, he went on his 80th also, but on his 85th birthday, everyone sort of thought, well, this is it. And he said, no, I'm going to do it on my 90th birthday. And everyone honestly kind of laughed, and I think everyone in our family was like, ha ha. Like, no, you're not. And this year it rolled around, and my grandfather, meanwhile, is in a wheelchair, and he doesn't have use of his legs. And so I think none of us thought he was actually going to do it. And it never crossed his mind that he wasn't going to do it. And I think, I mean, honestly, I think it's that it was really important to him to set a goal and think, maybe I'm 90, maybe I'm in a wheelchair, but I'm not, you know, stepping back from life. Like, I'm in this game, and I'm engaging, and it actually makes me want to cry. I mean, it was just a really wonderful lesson that you know, regardless of where you are in life, you really do need to be present, and you need to live it as to the fullest that you can. My grandmother walks her dogs on the beach every morning on the beach, and she said to me once, you know, I'm doing it because I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this tomorrow. And it's just sort of a little lesson of you have to engage because you don't know what's in front of you.
And speaking of strong female leaders, your grandfather is inspired every day by a strong female leader. Your grandmother, your namesake.
Yep.
I mean, she's notorious for making sure that he thinks of every issue and thinks of every solution in tandem with what's right. Is that correct? She's a force to be reckoned with. I went to school in Charleston, South Carolina, where she went to Ashley Hall, and people knew about her leadership skills before she met your dad. And again, another female leader to help us understand how to chart the direction. I don't know, I feel like we ought to get that rib back or something, you know, when we lost. This has been an incredible day. Thank you guys so very much. It is an inspiration to be around you. Let's give them a round of applause.